The nightmare is always the same. I walk through the fog in my mind in search of my wife. I hear her voice calling me from afar. I go to her voice, never finding her. I can never reach her. Then, as if summoned by the devil himself, a huge Gothic cathedral appears in front of me. I find the door open, and despite the dark color on the outside, everything inside is white. The lofty ceilings reach toward the sky, out of sight. Gargoyles and angels decorate the walls and columns. Rows and rows of people sit in pews, crying and hugging. Nobody notices me. I walk as quickly as I can to the front of the church, and in the distance I see a white coffin lying on a large rectangular table in the center. I see my wife lying there, and I scream her name, Cassandra. What's happened? Why is she here? Fear and despair fill me. I run, but it seems like I'm not moving anywhere, and it seems like that for hours. At the last moment, I am suddenly pushed forward towards my wife, and right before I reach her, the lid slams shut and the entire coffin falls into the ground. I scream her name again and wake up. I'm disoriented and confused. My heart is pounding, and I'm covered in a cold sweat. I frantically look around the room for my wife and don't find her. Then I focus on the photo of her on my bedside table, and everything comes back to me. My wife of 3 years left. The love of my life, my reason to breathe, is dead. The word hits me like a freight train, and I immediately burst into tears and sobs. Cassandra, she was more than just my wife. She was the most amazing, loving, sexual person I have ever known. When we met, it was electrifying. It was pure passion and love. I applied for a computer technician job at the company where she worked. I didn't know it then, but it was the most important day of my life. I had just met with her boss and was heading out of the building when the door opened and a woman came out with a stack of papers. She didn't notice me, and I was caught off guard to dodge. We ran into each other in the corridor. Her papers were scattered in all directions. Being the gentleman that I am, I bent down and began picking up the scattered mess. She told me not to worry about it, but I wasn't going to leave her to clean up on her own. Plus, she was the most amazing woman I've ever seen. Our hands reached out to the same piece of paper and touched each other. I felt a surge of energy. It was like a lightning strike. I needed to get to know her better, so I introduced myself. I took a bold step and invited her for a cup of coffee at a nearby cafe. She happily accepted my offer of coffee and said she would finish work around 5 p.m. and would meet me there. I was delighted. I was worried as I waited for her at the table in the corner. When she walked through the door, my heart jumped into my throat. She smiled at me and walked towards my table. I invited her to sit down and join me. You could say it was love at first cup. We talked over coffee for hours and talked about everything under the sun. Although we had a lot in common, we were very different. She was into sports, I was not. She liked sports like football and hockey, and I liked American football. She drank alcohol sometimes, but I never touched it. She was a structural engineer at her firm, which was quite an achievement at 22 years of age. I was a computer science student looking for a technical job at a large corporation. I didn't get the job I applied for at her firm, but I didn't leave empty-handed. I met her, which was the best prize. We started meeting at that cafe almost every day for lunch. It was never boring when we were together. It seemed like a good idea to take her on a real date to a nice restaurant. I invited her next Friday. I was wondering when you would invite me to dinner. Tomorrow night. Pick me up at 7. You choose a restaurant, and I'll choose a club after. She stood up and leaned closer to my ear. Play it right, and you might end up lucky. She kissed me tenderly on the lips. I watched as she walked to the door and left the cafe. She stopped at the window and blew me a kiss. I was fascinated by her. She was supposed to be mine. The others didn't come. My job wasn't as good as Cassandra's, but I made enough money to take her out to a nice dinner. I decided to do the old-fashioned thing and bought her flowers and some chocolate. Corny, I know, but I wanted to be different from the other guys she dated. I arrived at her door on time, and I was nervous. I wanted her to know that I was excited, but not too excited. She walked out the door, and her eyes lit up when she saw the roses and candy. You brought me flowers and chocolates. Wow, no one has ever done that for me. That's very nice of you. It's corny, I know. Actually, it's not corny at all. I like a man who knows how to be romantic and care for a girl. Come in while I put these roses in the water. I entered her apartment. It was beautifully furnished and larger than mine. She had photos with her friends and possibly family. I stood there in the living room while she walked into the kitchen looking for a vase. She returned and we went outside to the car. I took her to a famous Italian restaurant. There's nothing more romantic than authentic Italian food and atmosphere. We were seated and she ordered some wine. I ordered a soda. Would you like some wine? I don't drink. Oh, if you don't mind, but why? My aunt died of alcoholism. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's okay. I was very young when she died, but my mother told me terrible stories about how she found her. I guess I'm afraid of dying the same way. Does it bother you that I drink sometimes? No, not at all. Please, the more you drink, the better my chances. I closed my eyes and clenched my teeth. When I looked at her, she had a smile on her face, as if she was desperately trying not to laugh. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. It's okay, you're nervous. You need to relax a little. Yes, I need to. It's just that you look so beautiful tonight. It's not how I'm used to seeing you. Oh, how beautiful she was. She was wearing a tight sleeveless black dress, the edge of which went down just below her hips. Well, thanks, Paul, and you look pretty good too. That blue shirt really brings out the blue of your eyes. She smiled warmly. After that, the conversation became lively, and she laughed at my jokes. I tried to keep them away from vulgarity, but sometimes I slipped. We were having a great time, and when we finished, she wanted to dance at this new club in town. I was ready, but I wasn't the best dancer in the world. We went to the club, and she ordered a martini. I ordered Dr. Bissesi Pepper. We danced a little, and I was just trying not to step on her feet or look too awkward. We rested a bit and sat down at our table. We had been there for a few minutes when a large man approached her and asked her to dance. Sorry, no. I'm with him. Come on, beauty, he won't care. Actually, I care. The lady said no. I stood up and confronted him. I didn't care that he was bigger. He would only dance with her over my corpse. Okay, kid, I was just asking. No need to get mad about it. Sorry, I lost my cool. It's okay, I understand. I'd be the same if I was with her. You're the luckiest guy here. Enjoy the evening, and to show that I'm a good guy, the next round is on me. He put $20 on the table. Maybe not every guy is a Neanderthal. Thank you. Cass smiled at him. We went back to dancing, and then the DJ played a slow song. She pressed herself close to me and hugged me tightly. I hugged her, and we slowly swayed to the music. She looked at me and smiled a mysterious smile. Looks like you want to go home. She pressed herself tightly against me. Sorry. I felt embarrassed. Don't apologize. I'm ready to go home too. The way you stood up in front of that guy, even though he was bigger than you, impressed me so much. You know how to be elegant, you're funny and fearless. I think I found the perfect man. Well, I don't know about perfect, but I will try. Now there's only one thing left to check. What exactly? Take me home and you will find out. As you say. We were leaving the club when the same large man looked at me and winked. I nodded with a smile and we went outside. The ride back to her apartment was silent. I think we were both nervous about what would happen next. She sat there with a slight smile and looked at me from time to time. I smiled back, then turned my attention back to the road. When we arrived at her apartment, I parked the car and walked her to her door. She unlocked it, and I didn't even have time to try and say goodnight to her. She grabbed me and dragged me into her house, holding me by my shoulders and lips. We kissed and tore each other's clothes like animals. She was the tigress, and I was her prey. Through a tangle of limbs and clothing, we somehow made it to the bedroom, and by then she was almost naked. She had a beautiful body. When our heart rate returned to normal, she continued to smile at me and even began to giggle. What's so funny? It was just about 1,000 times better than I expected. I thought there was something wrong with you. I'm just glad it wasn't about sex. That's good to hear. Her giggle turned into laughter. I hope this isn't the last time. Ha ha, as many times as you allow. After that, we became inseparable. We spent all our free time and most nights together. We even played video games together. I preferred role-playing games, and she loved shooters. We only dated for a couple of months, but by then I already knew that she was the one. We moved in together the following week. She said she wanted to see me every day and sleep in the same bed every night. I desperately wanted the same thing. We chose her apartment simply because it was bigger and it was easier. I sold most of my furniture and moved. She was so happy at night when we lay in bed, snuggled snugly against each other. My friends told me that once I moved there would be less sex, but they couldn't be more wrong. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. Sometimes we had sex 2 or 3 times a day. It was great training. I have never felt healthier in my life. We suited each other well. This doesn't mean we didn't have arguments. Every couple has arguments, and we were no exception. When we started living together, I noticed that she eats with her mouth open. It was strange because at the restaurant she had perfect manners, but when we got home she ate like a cow. It drove me crazy. Then I read about the mental condition that makes people not like it. I just let it go after that. She didn't like the way I snored when we slept. I didn't understand this. We spent many nights together, and she never said anything. She gave me nasal strips, and the problem went away. Little things like this come up from time to time. Nothing serious, just 2 people learning to live together. Mostly we enjoyed each other and each other's company. After a few months, when everything was going so well, I started thinking about proposing to her. I went to the ring store one day and found the perfect set. She liked white, gold, and blue, so I bought a princess cut blue diamond ring for her engagement ring. I knew I might have been too hasty, but I really loved her. I planned to ask her one evening when we were walking in the park. There was a small pond and a bridge over the pond. We walked holding hands, enjoying the sunset and the tranquility that the park brought to our area. As we crossed the center of the bridge, I stopped and pulled her closer. "Cass, do you love me?" "Yes, Paul, I love you more than anything in this world." "And I love you too, but I have one more question I want to ask. Before I do that, let me say something." I paused. "When we first met, I was amazed by your beauty, but I fell in love with your heart. I was in awe of your kindness and generosity, but I adore the fact that you love only me. I cannot imagine my life without you, and alone the thought of this hurts my heart. Will you do me the honor of being my wife?" I got down on one knee. "Cassandra Marie Davis, will you marry me?" I took out the ring box and picked it up. "Yes, yes, I will agree." She didn't even hesitate for a second. I couldn't be happier. We kissed and then enjoyed the end of the sunset. We headed home at midnight. It was a night to remember. She was more than wild, and I quickly matched her. We went on our honeymoon to Hawaii, and there were times when we almost got caught having sex on the beach. When we got home, I immediately started on my next project. I was going to buy a house that she would like. 2 months later, I found a house that I thought she would want. The best thing was that the price was perfect. The monthly mortgage payment would be less than what we were paying in rent. The only question was whether she would like him. I wanted to make it a surprise, so I went to pick her up from work. She was happy to see me standing outside the building waiting for her. I told her I wanted to take her to a special place, and she enthusiastically jumped into my car. The house was not in the city center, but it was nearby. It was about a 15-minute drive from work, which meant her commute would be easy. She looked at me a little confused as we turned down a small street with a row of houses on either side. "Where are we going?" "You'll see." We pulled into the driveway of a 2-story house. "Who lives here?" "We will if you want." I contacted the realtor and started talking to the bank, but I wanted you to make the final decision. Well, this is unexpected. Can we afford it? Actually, the payment will be less than our rent. It's not a problem. I just hope you like it. If the inside is as good as the outside, I'll be delighted. We went inside and looked around the house. There was a large living room connected to a large dining room. We walked into the kitchen, where Cass saw the large backyard for the first time. Her eyes lit up when she saw all the space for the family. But that is not all. When we got upstairs, she saw 2 large rooms and a master bathroom. Then she saw the door to the master bedroom. It was an even larger room with a dressing room. Next to the walk-in closet was the door to our private bathroom. She threw herself on my neck and kissed me. This is perfect. When do we sign? The bank that owns this place is willing to sell it immediately. They've already reduced their price twice. It's a bargain at $300,000. Our bank gave us $400,000 to spend, so if you don't like it, we can use the rest for improvements. This is so amazing. I can't believe we're going to own this house. I love you, Paul. And I love you too, darling. I called the realtor, and we signed the documents within a few days. All we had to do was wait for the bank's approval, and everything was fine. It didn't take long, just a few days, but Cass was nervous. She wasn't happy until we moved in a few weeks later. We spent the rest of the money on paint and updating appliances. By the end of it all, she was happier than ever. The night we finally settled in, we made love in the master bedroom. She was again as wild as ever. She almost drove me crazy. Lying there in post-sex bliss, she looked like she wanted to say or ask something. I was a little worried about the look on her face. Her head lay on my chest, and she looked into space. Are you okay, honey? Yeah, I was just thinking about something. Do you want to tell me? Rather, I have a question. She raised her head to look at me. Okay, what questions do you have? I know we don't usually talk about our past lovers, but I just wanted to know how you became such an amazing sex god. I am just curious. It doesn't really matter if you don't want to tell me, but I'd like to know. God sex. You are very good in bed. It's like you know what I'm thinking before I even know what I'm thinking. The only person I know who can do this is God, so a god of sex seems appropriate. Ha, flattery will get you everything. I looked at her again and realized that she really wanted to know. Do you promise that you won't judge or be angry with me when I tell you this story? I promise to try not to overreact. Good enough. I cleared my throat. We're married now, so I think she should know about my past. I lost my virginity to an older girl. What? Her head snapped up and she looked a little shocked. She was the daughter of my uncle's second wife, about 5 years older than me. I grinned slightly at her. Then she hit me on the arm. You promised not to overreact. Sorry, please continue, she said, lowering her head back. Her family spent several weeks with us during the summer. They always did. Well, one afternoon after some fun at the pool, she walked in on me while I was in the shower. She had this evil grin on her face as she walked into the shower with me. I won't go into detail, but she took my virginity and came out of the shower with an even bigger smile. I looked at Cass, trying to gauge her reaction. There was no disgust in her gaze, so I continued. We had sex several times that summer, and she admitted that I was God's gift to women, but I was a fool. I had a couple other girlfriends in high school, but they dumped me after just a couple of weeks. I didn't know what made them leave me. It couldn't have been sex because I was great at sex. At least I thought I was great at sex. Then I met Rachel. That was probably my first real love. We were together for several months when my mother died of cancer, and I had to go home for a while. She said she wanted to go with me, but she couldn't. I went home and grieved with my family. In pursuit of communication, I returned earlier than planned. I entered my dorm room and found my beloved Rachel having sex with my roommate. She jumped up and covered herself. I couldn't understand it. He quickly retreated around the room. I was on the verge of tears, but I needed to know why. She said it was because I was terrible in bed. I was shocked and humiliated. Then she told me that sometimes I hurt her with my rude behavior. I felt terrible hearing that I had hurt her. Sex should be something wonderful and nothing less than pleasure. I never wanted to hurt anyone again. I couldn't blame her for cheating. A tear rolled down my cheek. I was a selfish and cruel lover. I was looking only for my own pleasure and thought that pleasure came to a girl just by being with me. I was so stupid when I was younger. You were young and didn't know anything. Yes, but I was still human. I hurt her, Cass. A man should never hurt a woman. Sex should be loving, pleasurable, and fun, just like we are together. I vowed to never be so selfish. When I meet the woman I marry, she will never have a reason to cheat on me. I was going to be the most loving and attentive husband in the history of husbands. Well, you've done an amazing job so far, but you can't blame it all on yourself. What do you mean? She should have told you before she ran off with your roommate. She could at least explain how she feels and give you a chance to change. Instead, she cheated on you and hurt you while you two were grieving for your mom. She sounds like a terrible person and just blamed it all on you. I could never do this to you. I could never hurt you like this. It would kill me if I knew I caused you so much pain. That's why I love you so much. You're the kindest person I've ever met. There's not an evil bone in you. I felt her cringe when I said that. What's wrong, honey? Nothing. Keep telling your story. She smiled. Are you sure? She nodded. Okay. Well, after I figured out why she did it, I was determined to learn how to do it right. I read books, watched videos, and even talked to women. I got tons of advice and learned hundreds of techniques. Then I came back. To Rachel after a year and a half, I practically begged her to have sex with me again. After a week of begging, she finally gave in, and that night we had sex. She lay there with her mouth open in surprise. She said it was the most intense sexual experience in her life. She asked where I learned all this. I told her that I took her words to heart and changed. She cried because she wished she had just talked to me since I was like that, ready to change. She thought I would be like all the other men in her life and remain the same stubborn jerk. I asked her if she wanted to try again, but she said no. She met the man of her dreams, and she was ashamed for having sex with me behind his back. I asked her why she didn't tell me she was in a relationship. She just came out of my bed and told me everything would be okay. He'll never know. I stopped her and told her to never cheat on him again. If she truly loves him, she must give up all others for his sake. We broke up, but I regained some self-respect. I rocked her world. Before she left, I gave her a book for her boyfriend. She asked what it was, and I told her it was the secret to my success. Why didn't you save it? I read it 4 times. I learned everything I could from it. Plus, when we got married, I bought another copy. We both laughed. Are you still worried about pleasing me? More than ever. Why? Because this isn't just flirting anymore. This is my life, and my life revolves around you. If you're happy, I'm happy. If you're sad, I'm sad. I want you to be the happiest wife in the world. Oh, but I am. I want to make you happy too, you know. My life is intertwined with yours too. I love you so much that sometimes it feels like my heart is going to burst. I guess we'll just spend the rest of our lives making each other happy. I love you, Paul. And I love you, Cassandra. I rarely used her full name, but at this moment it was appropriate. We fell asleep and saw our future in a dream. A few months after our wedding, Cass received a promotion and became the new head of her department. This meant that she would have to travel several times a month, but these trips were short. Usually it was no more than 3 days, and sometimes I could go with her. She didn't like leaving me when I couldn't go, but she liked the work. I never once thought that she might be unfaithful to me. I had complete confidence in her fidelity. I missed her when she left, but I always supported her to continue her work. We always had an incredible sex session before she left, as if this was our last time. At the end, we hugged each other and whispered endearments to each other. Pillow talk was her favorite. She was describing how I had just made her feel and how our love made it so much more intense and explosive. It gave me pleasure to lie next to her and admire her beautiful body. Her brown hair flowed over her shoulders, and her brown eyes shone with happiness. I remember the night before she left on that fateful trip. The love that night was especially energetic and passionate. She was simply insatiable. When it was over, we were lying in bed, and she had this sad look on her face. It was unusual to see her like this after good sex, and I was concerned about her change in mood. Cass, is something wrong? Oh, sorry, honey. I was just thinking. How much will your thoughts be sold for? She raised her head and lowered her chin to my chest, looking into my eyes. What would you do if I died? This question shook me to the core. I didn't want to think about losing her. Life without my loving wife was unthinkable. It was unbearable. I was lost for words. I, I don't know what I would do. You never thought about it, did you? No, I never wanted to think about it. I know what I would do if you died. And what is it? Wait. Wait what? You, of course. I would wait for you until you came back to me, or until I went to you myself. That's what I would do. Wouldn't you find someone else to live with? There is no man on this planet that I could love the way I love you. If I lost you, it would be like losing myself. I don't want anyone else, and I never will. Are you really going to wait for me? Yes. Do you love me that much? More than you'll ever know. And how am I supposed to get back to you? You'll find a way. In that case, you must also find a way to return. If you wait for me, I will wait for you. Just don't be late. She always giggled at my jokes. I won't, I promise. She fell asleep within a few minutes. I spent that night thinking. I couldn't live without her because our lives were so closely connected. She was my life, and I did everything for her. Sleep overtook me after my mind finally calmed down. My alarm clock signaled that it was time for her to get up and get ready for the flight. We took a shower together and even made love there. Soon she got dressed and headed to the door. Before she walked out to her car, she turned around and kissed me deeply and passionately. Wait for me, she whispered in my ear. Until the end of time, I whispered back. The last time I spoke to her was when she called me saying she had made it to Dallas and checked into a hotel. We expressed our love for each other, and her last words to me were, "Wait for me." It was 6 in the evening when her boss called me. He had just received word that the abandoned warehouse she was inspecting had exploded due to a gas leak. I urgently asked him if he knew where she was. He said no, but urged not to lose hope. She might still be okay. He said he would call if he heard anything, or I could call the Dallas police. I hung up and called the Dallas police. I needed to know what happened. I needed to know she was okay. They didn't have much information other than that some people died in the explosion. My heart sank. I knew I had lost her. My life is over. It was only a matter of time before it was confirmed. An hour later, the police called me back with the news that they had identified a woman about her age among the victims. Then, mid-conversation, they informed me that they had found her wallet and confirmed that it was her. I fell to my knees and let out a scream that could only be described as a scream of absolute despair. I had a thread of hope that she was still alive, and they cut it. I don't remember much of what happened next, only fleeting memories and hazy images. At some point, I lost consciousness and woke up sprawled on the floor. I got up and grabbed the phone. I called the Dallas police for more information. They informed me that the body had been recovered and was being examined. They invited me to fly and pick him up. I called my boss and told him what happened. "Oh, Paul, I'm so sorry. Take all the time you need. I don't care how long it takes. Just come back when you're ready. Oh, God, I'm so sorry." My next call was to my father. He loved Cass like his own daughter and was devastated when I told him. He offered to accompany me to Dallas, and I quickly agreed. When he arrived, we hugged for a long time. He was never an emotional person, but when we lost my mother a few years ago, he softened. I called my brother and sister. They all came with me to Dallas. I would need all the help I could get. My best friend Chris said he would look after the house for me. His wife Joni gave me an emotional goodbye. Cass and she had become close friends over the past 3 years. The trip to Dallas was a blur. Dad and Kyle, my brother, did most of the work. My sister did everything she could to keep me on my feet. Being the youngest in the family has its advantages. So many older people I could rely on to help me when I was practically useless with grief. Carrie did the best she could with the emotional mess I had become. Dad and Kyle picked her up from the police station and arranged for her to be transported home. I barely remember the ride back or even the funeral. My family gathered around me and kept me busy with the things I needed to do. While all my family and friends began to return to their normal lives, mine continued to rapidly deteriorate. A few weeks later, I was still dazed and numb. What to do when the most important part of your life suddenly disappears? Nobody knows the answer to this. Then the nightmares began. Every night the same, and every night I woke up screaming her name. One day my dad came to see me about 3 weeks after the funeral. I must have looked terrible. He used his fatherly influence to force me to come to my senses and start a new life without her. Son, when I lost your mother, my world also collapsed. I know what you're going through. I was so angry at her for leaving me, and the pain of her absence was almost unbearable. A couple of times I was so low that I almost committed suicide. He laughed. Life goes on. It's sad and unfair, but life moves on. Don't try to forget her. Don't try to replace her. Just live for her. Live for both of you. She will always be with you, just like your mother is with me. He smiled and patted me on the shoulder. On the eve of her departure, she asked a strange question, I said, again on the verge of tears. What question? What would I do if she died? What did you answer her? I didn't have a good answer, but she did. What did she say? She said that if she had died, she would have waited. She would wait until I returned or until I joined her. I promised her that I would wait for her until the end of time. Then you should keep your promise. Keep your home and yourself ready for her return. But it's so difficult, Dad. I'm not sure I can. The tears began to fall again. Wait a few years until she finds her way home, son. If she doesn't come back by then, wait a little longer. He hugged me, and just like that he left. I was alone again, but now I had a new goal. I was going to wait. I was going to wait until the end of time. The nightmares stopped that night. My father was right. Life goes on. I returned to work and started hanging out with friends again. I never managed to return to normal life. Not having Cass in my life left me with a huge void, a void that could not be filled. My life was mostly empty. I went to work, ate, slept, then repeated. Only the promise I made to Cass kept me going. It kept me sane and together. On the anniversary of her death, everything began to fall apart again. It started with a text message from a number I didn't recognize. The message contained only 3 mysterious words: "Wait for me." I tried to call this number, but the line was disconnected. I tried calling the phone company to see who it was or if they could trace the call. I even tried to use my computer skills to figure out who could have sent it to me. I even called my father and asked if he did it. He swore that he would never do such a thing to me. Only Cass, Dad, and I knew what she told me. Having no more leads, I left it as is. The day after receiving the message, I was sitting in the cafe where we had lunch for the first time. I was deep in thought, looking out the window, when a blonde woman walked by. Her hair color was different, but I knew it was Cass. I jumped up and rushed to the cafe door, throwing it open. I looked around, but she was no longer there. The waitress asked me what was wrong. She was probably afraid that I would leave without paying. I left $20 on the table and left. That night, the nightmares returned. Then, later that week, I was sitting in my office looking out the window when I saw the same woman looking down at me. I was only on the second floor, so I saw her quite well. She smiled, then turned and left. My face was pressed against the glass. I must be losing my mind. First a cryptic message, now I see her walking around the city. And that same night, the nightmare repeated itself. I stayed up all night and found myself sitting at the table in our cafe, sipping strong coffee. I looked up and noticed a woman looking at me. This time it wasn't Cass, but one of her co-workers. Her name was Stacy, and I met her at one of the company parties Cass took me to. She was holding a cup of coffee and walked towards me. "Paul, how are you?" "It's me, Stacy, Cassandra's friend from work," she smiled. "Hi, Stacy. I'm glad to see you." "Everything is so-so with me." An awkward silence hung between us. "I never told you how sorry I am that you lost Cass. She was my good friend. I miss her." "Yes, she is on my mind all the time. I miss her very much too." Stacy sat up and looked at me tenderly. She was a beautiful woman, and if I hadn't been so dedicated to waiting for Cass, I would have asked her out. She was shorter than Cass and curvier. She wasn't fat, she just had curves in the right places. I had to look away to keep my thoughts from wandering too far. She must have noticed it. "Listen, Paul, it's been over a year. Isn't it time for you to move on?" A wave of anger ran through me. I had no intention of moving on, and I didn't like hearing anyone else tell me to. She backed away from the intense glare I directed at her. "Sorry, Paul, this must still be painful for you. I did not want to make you sad." She stood up and turned to leave. She stopped for a moment and turned around again. "Listen, come have dinner with me tonight. We'll talk about Cass and everything she meant to us. I won't take no for an answer." I didn't really know what to do, but I thought dinner couldn't hurt. "Okay, Stacy, where and when?" "Chino's at 7. We can have dinner and talk." "I will be there. See you later." "Look forward to it." "Again, Paul, I'm sorry." She turned and walked out the door before I could accept her apology. What the hell was I doing? It must have been because I was so confused. I went back to work and tried to finish a few projects that afternoon. For the first time in a year, my thoughts wandered to another woman other than my wife. I quickly pushed these thoughts aside. My heart, my mind, and my soul only had a place for Cass. I went to dinner with Stacy, but only to talk about Cass. On the way home, my thoughts wandered back to Stacy, and I instantly felt like I had cheated on Cass. I decided that I needed to stop and visit her. My car pulled into the cemetery parking lot. I took a short walk to her grave. On the stone was a photograph of us together. It was pink and had her name written on one side. My name was on the other side. I stood there looking at the old photograph. I remembered all the fun and wonderful moments we had. I needed to tell her what I was going to do. "Cass, my love, I miss you so much. I'm trying to wait for you, but it's so hard. Harder than I ever imagined. I love you, and your absence has left me with such an emptiness that it almost consumes me. I don't know what to do now. You should know that I'm meeting a woman from your work for dinner tonight. I swear to you that nothing will come of this. I won't even touch her. I just need to talk to someone about you." Tears flowed freely. "No one can fill the emptiness in my heart except you, my love. I will wait for you until the end of time, as I always promised. Hurry up and get back to me. I love you." Tears were still burning in my eyes as I headed back to my car. The ride home was short, and I still had time to stretch. I decided to take a shower. The warm water felt nice on my skin. My emotions were exposed, and my body felt no better. Sleep took its toll. It was 6, and I started getting ready. I put on a pair of khakis and a blue button-down shirt. Cass always said I looked good in blue. She said it brought out the blue of my eyes. I guess that was my most remarkable feature. I'm 6 feet tall with brown hair. I kept in shape even after her death. It was another example of how deeply my life was connected to her. The only significant change was probably that I grew a beard after she died. I took my keys and got into the car. I sat there for a minute wondering if this was right. Am I betraying Cass if I have dinner with another woman? I know it sounds weird to think that I might cheat on her, but it just didn't feel right. I decided to do it anyway, and then never again. Chino's was this fancy Mexican restaurant that was very popular. There was a bar on one side and a full 5-star restaurant on the other. Of course, you could order drinks from the bar with your meal if you wanted. It was decorated in a Tex-Mex theme and even had live music on the weekends. I walked in and looked at Stacy. I noticed her at the table and told the hostess that I was with her. She led me to a table and smiled at me as she excused herself and left. Stacy looked great, and I could tell she tried to look her best. "Hello, glad you came," her smile reassured me. "And I'm glad. I think I haven't gone out for a long time. I almost forgot how to dress." She laughed at my joke. This seemed to ease the tension in the air. We talked for a long time, exchanging stories about Cass and our shared experiences. She told me stories about Cass at work that made me laugh out loud. Eventually, as usually happens in conversations, our conversation turned to a sexual topic. "So, Paul, are you seeing anyone?" "No, I haven't dated anyone outside of my family for quite some time. I just don't know if I ever will." "Well, isn't it time you tried? I mean, you should be more than on edge by now. I can't imagine going a whole year without some kind of intimacy." She looked like a woman ready to hunt. My fears instantly increased. I have no desire to try to replace Cassandra. She was the love of my life, and no one could take her place. I'm not talking about replacement. I'm talking about having a little fun. "Well, I don't like it. It's strange to even talk about it." "I understand. It feels like a betrayal to her." "Exactly. I just can't bring myself to do it." "Okay, I won't convince you of anything. We can just be friends. You're not ashamed to be friends, are you?" "Not at all." "Okay, then a good friend would give a friend a ride home after he's had too much to drink." She smiled again. "I think it's something a friend could do. Where do you live?" "Oh, just a few miles from here. Too far to walk and not far enough to call a taxi." We paid the bill, and she jumped into my car. The trip home was lively with more stories about Cass and her work life. But Stacy couldn't stop talking about sex. "You know, Cass was bragging about how great you are in bed." "She did it, right? Well, she was fantastic too." To tell the truth, I wanted to check it myself and see it with my own eyes. "But you stopped it." "Sorry, didn't mean to seem rude about it." "It's okay. Like I said, I understand. It would be like betraying her." We drove up to her house, and I parked the car. "Are you sure you don't want to come over for a drink?" "I appreciate the offer, but no." "Well, I tried to be nice, Paul, but apparently you chose the hard way." "What do you mean?" "This." She pulled out a stun gun, and before I could react, she hit me with it. I didn't immediately lose consciousness, but I could barely move. My movements were sluggish as I tried to defend myself. She gave me another shock, and I passed out. The first thing I remember when I returned to the world of the living was that my head felt like it had been run over. Trying to somehow relieve my headache, I discovered that my hands were tied behind my back. It took me a second to remember what happened. A wave of fear ran through me when I realized that I had been kidnapped. I looked around the small room, trying to figure out what to do. There was nothing in the room except the chair I was sitting on and the light coming from the ceiling. Where the hell am I? Before I could try to find a way out, I heard a click and a rustle of air. Behind me was a door that had just opened. I heard footsteps approaching me. They were slow and light. My heart started beating faster. "Look who's awake. You must have a hell of a headache." Stacy came into view. "I guess you're even more confused. Don't worry, I'll explain everything." She leaned over and smiled. She changed into tight black leggings and a black tank top. There was a sinister smile on her lips, and the look she gave me made me shudder. "You're probably wondering what this is all about." She straightened up and began to walk back and forth in front of me. "It has to do with your wife and her job." "What about Cass? What about her job?" She was just looking at old buildings. "I'm not talking about this job. I'm talking about her work for the state. That job where she stole secrets from other governments." "Is my wife a spy?" "Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. She's not even really your wife." "Not my wife, But there was a ceremony and a priest and her family. Everything is fake. You're lying, I spat, my voice filled with contempt for her. Believe me, I wish I could lie. She was extremely convincing, pretending she was just an engineering expert for some stupid consulting firm. I do not trust you. You're just telling me this so that I'll tell you something. Haha, I hate to say it, Paul, but it's not about what you know. You're a smart guy, but you're not the one I'm interested in. You're just bait for prey. What booty? Well, your wife, of course. But she's dead. She won't come to save me, I said angrily. Ha, you see, you don't know much about your wonderful wife. She is very much alive, and you will bring her to me. Why should I trust you? Because there is no point in me lying to you. What will lying to you do for me? She is alive? Yes, she is alive, and when she comes for you, I will kill her. For what? Why do you want to kill her? What did she do to you to make you hate her so much? For me personally, nothing. But the people who hired me want her dead, and that's what I'm succeeding in. What makes you think she's coming for me? She didn't show up for a whole year. Because the marriage may have been a sham, but the love was not. I wasn't kidding when I said she was bragging about how good you are in bed. She loved you so much that she tried to quit her job several times just to be with you. Why didn't they let her go? You can't leave the CIA that easily. She had to stay until all the cases she was working on were completed. Then why did she fake her death? The police report said there was no doubt it was her. Well, one of her trips abroad went a little wrong and her cover was blown. Then there was a mole who sold the information to the wrong people. These wrong people started targeting the agents' families. Cassandra faked her death so you wouldn't get hurt. You were the next target and she was protecting you. She had to go into hiding until things calmed down and then she would come back. I guess you were the mole. You're a smart guy. Now that you know everything, you will do something for me. She stood right in front of me. The door swung open again and several guys with video equipment came in and started setting it up. What is this? You'll make a little video begging your wife to come and save you. Never. I just found out that she is alive, and I will not ask her to come here and die, even if it costs me my life. How noble, but if you don't do this willingly, we'll have to help you. One of the men came up and looked me in the eyes. He was big and probably hit like a sledgehammer, but I didn't give up. They turned on the camera and pointed it straight at me. I'll ask again. We can do it the easy way or the hard way, she said, smiling. To hell with you. Oh, what a dirty mouth. Okay, do it, but leave him alive. We need something that can be salvaged. Stacy, apparently not wanting to watch, left the room. The big guy came up to me and laughed. You have spirit, that's for sure. Now it's time to break it. For a big guy, he was fast. I didn't even see him take the first shot. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but I woke up to the feeling of wetness on my body. The cold water hit me, and while it was a relief, it did little to stop the throbbing pain. There was an argument in the room that I could barely perceive. My head was still foggy, and it was painful to concentrate. I said to leave him alive. You almost killed him. We need him alive, you idiots. If you don't come and get him, we'll do this to him every day, until either he dies or you don't show up. I don't think he can handle another day. The camera turned off and Stacy walked behind me. She untied my bonds and I tried to get up and run away. I just managed to fall face down. Half asleep, I felt myself being lifted and dragged through the door into another room. I was unceremoniously thrown onto the bed and covered with a blanket. Stacy came closer and sat down next to me. Sorry, my friends overdid it. Sometimes they get carried away. The video should be delivered this evening. I think this whole story with the noble husband may work to our advantage. I said a lot of things about how you didn't want to cooperate. Cass should be here by dawn. Don't worry, I'll do it quickly. I couldn't speak, otherwise I would have called her a traitor. I just lay there and let the darkness take over me. I was half conscious for what seemed like hours. Stacy came in and out of my small cell, talking to the others in her group. How many were there? Why did they want to challenge the CIA? It seemed crazy to me. Doesn't the CIA have military ties and support? They could engage the entire battalion of troops. I just hoped I wouldn't die in the firefight. I would have died for Cass, but that didn't mean I wanted it. I wanted to live and hug her again. A loud bang, followed by several other loud bangs, woke me up. It sounded like gunfire. Has Cass finally come to save me? I hoped she didn't come on her own, but rather sent a SWAT team. But then I thought, why would they send a SWAT team after one guy who didn't mean much to the government? I didn't have time to think as Stacy and one of her goons burst into my room and grabbed me. The man supported me because I lacked strength. I found myself trying to help him support me, but then I thought, why should I help them? I relaxed my body, and the sudden loss of support dropped me to the floor. Looks like the guy wasn't ready for my weight. Pick it up. He is our only chance. Before the man could react, the door swung open again, and two soldiers with rifles rushed in and pointed their guns at Stacy and her friend. Both froze in place. Is your name Paul? I barely found the strength to nod in response. He smiled, then turned to the door and shouted, "Medic!" Several people burst into the room, and I was loaded onto a stretcher. Before I passed out again from relief at being rescued, I saw her enter the room. She was dressed all in black with "police" written on her jacket, and her hair was pulled back into a ponytail. My God, but she was beautiful. Our eyes met, and she looked at me in horror. Oh God, what did they do to you? Oh, Paul, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for everything. She looked up at Stacy with an anger I had never seen before. With unexpected speed, she rushed toward Stacy and hit her right in the nose, then hit the guy as hard as possible in the groin. I hope I never make her mean that. She came back to me and walked next to me while they carried me outside. I needed to touch her. My body found the strength to reach out and grab her hand. She looked at me and smiled. Oh, how I missed that smile. We walked through many corridors and then found ourselves on the street near a large abandoned office building. I didn't recognize this place or the surrounding area. Where the hell did they take me? We approached the helicopter and they loaded me inside. Cass climbed in behind me, still holding my hand. She leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. It hurt, but it was the sweetest pain I've ever felt. My other hand came up and touched her cheek. She's back. She found her way back from the jaws of death. In this knowledge, I again allowed the darkness to take over me. Even in my sleep, I could still feel the warmth of her hand holding mine. The dream was different this time. I was still walking through the thick fog, but this time there was no huge cathedral or funeral. I heard Cass somewhere in the distance, and this time she was talking to someone. As I approached her, I heard a quiet squeak, which became louder with every step. I came closer and closer to the sounds until I opened my eyes. For the first time in days, I could see clearly. I looked around the darkened room and realized that I was in a hospital room. At the foot of my bed stood my beloved Cass, back from the dead, and another woman. She was older and wore a lab coat, held a clipboard in her hands, and had a stethoscope hanging around her neck. Well, he's got concussions, a few broken ribs, a broken jaw, and a hell of a lot of power in him. I'm sure he will make a full recovery. He's feeling good as being restored and should wake up soon. She turned and looked at me. You see, he's already woken up. Cass ran up to me and knelt down. Oh, baby, you're awake. I'm so sorry for what they did to you. I was so stupid that I left you. I should have told you the truth and gotten you away from them. My finger touched her lips. Are you alive? I would die 1,000 times if it meant I could touch you again. Please don't leave me again. Never, my love. I will never leave you again. I'm here to stay. She kissed me tenderly on the lips. Oh, feeling her lips on mine again was enough to awaken every part of my body. The doctor and Cass noticed my condition. Cass smiled as the doctor headed towards the door. I'll leave you alone. Be careful. He's still pretty sick. She went out and closed the door behind her. So a whole year without sex? I asked. There has been nothing in my soul since that morning. I told you I would never hurt you like that. You are my only one. She said we weren't really married. Why did she think that? First of all, I already told you that we are married. Secondly, she never knew that the marriage was real. My former boss just found out about this. He was angry at me for deceiving him, but I would rather deceive him than you, she said, stroking my thigh. I pressed the button to rise up. There was pain, but I assumed that this was normal for broken ribs. My hand touched her cheek, and I tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. She was so beautiful. Is this your real hair color, or did you dye it blonde? I painted it. I tried to hide because they were looking for a brunette. I've lied to you a lot about my life, but most of what you know about me is true. The life we led together was real. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I'm not angry or upset with you, Cass. I love you. Just glad you're alive. I smiled at her to emphasize my joy. You probably have a million questions for me. On the part itself, yes. Ask anything. How did you end up working for the CIA? Well, after high school, I joined the Army to pay for college. They were delighted because I scored high on their aptitude tests. After basic training, they sent me to study, and I received my degree. When I also showed potential in working with computers, the CIA took notice and recruited me. I worked on their hacking team and spied on governments from our office here in the city. Hacker team. Yes, it's not an official name, but that's what we called ourselves. And Stacy was part of this team. Yes, after my promotion, she worked for me. I think she was jealous. Because of your promotion. This and the fact that I had you. Stacy's relationship did not last even a year. She didn't like him and even began to hate him. She always said how lucky I was that I chose you. She was right, though. You are the best husband I could wish for. You even helped me get a promotion, although you probably didn't know it. Is this because of that virus that someone downloaded onto your system? Yes, we tried everything to eliminate it. Then you fixed it. When my boss saw that the problem was solved, he promoted me. That's when we thought Stacy had become a traitor. So Stacy was jealous of us. It seems like it. Her husband wasn't nearly as good a man as you, and it probably didn't help her that I kept bragging about how wonderful you were. I think she was angry because I got first choice and chose you. So that whole incident where I bumped into you in the hallway was a setup. Yes, she said with a sheepish smile. Why did you choose me? Honestly, yes. It was your blue eyes that attracted me. I always wanted a guy with blue eyes, and since I was senior in rank to everyone else, I got first choice. Then it turned out that you are a surprisingly loving, gentle, and extremely satisfying lover. After that first night of love, I fell head over heels in love with you. Then you told me that story about you and Rachel, and how you changed because you never wanted to hurt another woman again. How you wanted sex with you to always be just pleasure. I never told you this, but I found her. I asked her many questions. The last thing she told me was that other than the bad sex, you were the perfect guy. She might even marry you if you were better in bed. She so wanted to agree to your offer to return, but she loves someone else. Then she said, I have to be careful with you. Never hurt you and always be the faithful wife you deserve. She leaned over and kissed me. I was Paul. I was faithful to you the entire time we were married. She looked at the tent rising under the blanket. And I know that you have been faithful too. She kissed me again. Now that you know the whole truth, what will you do? I will wait for you, no matter what. But please don't leave without me again. Ha, I promise. I won't leave again, she said, lying down next to me on the bed and hugging my chest. I so missed the feeling of having her next to me at night, when the loneliness becomes unbearable. Now she is with me again. No more lonely nights for me or her. When can we go home? The doctor said it won't be for another few days. She wants to keep you under observation. Will you stay with me? Of course, I will stay with you. There is not a single person on this planet who can make me leave. A few days later, we entered our house together. My boss was aware of what happened and gave me a month of extra time off to recover. He said I could do most of my work from home. Cass was still considered legally dead, but her boss was working to fix that. It didn't take long before she settled all the formalities and everything returned to normal. Now comes the hard part. I needed to tell my family that she was back. I called my father first. If anyone could understand, it was him. My sisters will probably have to tell while we are as far away from them as possible. Melissa and Nanette were very caring towards their little brother. They wouldn't think twice before acting, and Cass could end up in trouble. Eric would be calmer, but he would still be upset. Dad, son, where have you been? I came in, but you weren't at home, and... Dad, I was in the hospital. I kind of got kidnapped and beaten a little bit. I'm fine, I swear, but there's something else. Can you come? I'll be there in 5 minutes. He arrived at 4. Okay, tell me everything. He burst through the door. Daddy, please sit down. He sat down and I told him about the latest events. He listened carefully. Dad, there is something else I need to tell you. What is it, son? Cass, come here. Cass walked into the room and her father's eyes widened. He obviously recognized her, even though she was now blonde. He jumped up and hugged her. Neither of us expected him to do this. I thought there would be a lot of screaming and then maybe hugs. The look on Cass's face was one of complete satisfaction. Dad, I thought you'd be mad at me for leaving. I'll be angry later. Now I'm just glad you're back. Paul hasn't been himself since you, left. To be honest, me too. I lost my daughter that day, and now she's back. He cried tears of happiness when I joined in the hug. After we had all calmed down, Cass told her father the same story she told me about why she had to leave. He understood the reasons and was even proud of her for making such a difficult decision to protect me. It must have been really hard for you to leave. The truth is that I never left. I was always there, watching Paul. The hardest thing was seeing him suffer and not being able to console him. It broke my heart to see him every day grieving for me when I was just a few miles away. Cass began to cry again. Everything is fine, dear. All this suffering is now far behind us. I'm with you again, and we'll catch up. I kissed her, and we hugged each other for a long time. Dad smiled as he stood up and walked towards the door. Dad, where are you going? I was surprised. I'm going to tell the rest of the family. We should celebrate tonight. We should welcome Cass home properly. He left as quickly as he came. We looked at each other and then ran upstairs. Both had the same thought in their heads. It might be a while before we could make love, so it was a here and now moment. After our rather whirlwind romance, we lay in bed cuddling, and I held the woman of my dreams in my arms, never letting her go.